We're good. Okay, we're back from closed session. Mr. Attorney, would you make an announcement from our closed session activity?
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. From closed session, there was no reportable action and direction was given to staff.
Thank you, sir. Next item is Pledge of Allegiance. I'm going to ask Councilman Scott Thompson to lead us.
Sure, please stand. Salute, pledge. I pledge allegiance of the United States of America, republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible.
Next item, I entertain a motion for adopting the agenda for tonight.
I move that we adopt the agenda tonight.
I'll second.
Call the roll, please.
Motion carries unanimously.
Next item we have is presentation and proclamations. The first one is a resolution recognizing the Boy Scout Troop 29 for their 100-year celebration. I'm going to ask them to come up and I'll read it. Yeah. Scotty. Reading all that, resolution.
I move that we do so.
Second?
Call roll, please.
Motion carries unanimously.
Mayor? Yes, sir. As a scout, he has to have that all memorized. The law and the oath. City attorney.
I'm going to hold you to that.
All right, thank you again, Boy Scouts. It's really nice to have you here. And I appreciate the communication. That helped us know what's going on. Next item is public communication, hearing of non-agenda items. Do we have any cards?
Mr. Mayor, we do have speakers. We have 5 speakers. Our first
right.
speaker is Tom Turk.
Tom?
Thank you. Mr. Mayor, council members, city staff, and everybody here this evening, I'm thanking you for the opportunity to share the event coming up on April 9th, Tuesday night at the State Theater. We have twice a year, we have a night of Southern Gospel music. No church affiliation, no preaching. It's a free event, and we just have some professional musicians that are going to be there Tuesday night. The first time that I've had 11 members there, professional musicians and singers. It'll be a special event, and I've put a stack of invitations on the banister over there, or whatever, and feel free to take one if you wish. I just think that, and I know the city has really supported the State Theater stage group and what they've done in that theater. When I have people come up, like I will be having Tuesday night, they'll see for the first time the effort that's been put into renovation of that State Theater. It's historic and a remarkable job, and they're going to continue to work on it. It's going to just continue to get better, and the second comment I wanted to make is that I'm involved with rental properties in Oroville and with the homeless situation, the criminal element, et cetera. I want to commend our city police department, our code enforcement, Ron Belser, and everyone that's involved. I know you got a tough job ahead of you. Laws restrict what you're able to do, but Montgomery Street's been cleaned up. Being in real estate, I'm well aware of the fact that when I bring somebody to town and promote Oroville, and they have these homeless people at our entrances to Oroville and asking for money and not giving us a good image, that's being addressed as best you can under the law. And I'm proud to be an Oroville native. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom.
Our next speaker is Brian Williams.
Council, staff,
Welcome, Brian.
I want to talk about a few things tonight. I recently read in the news that the DA's office is offering hiring bonuses now. So hopefully that's going to help us be able to take care of some of the caseload that we have. And I also understand that the sheriff's office also has a $10,000 hiring bonus for new employees and $30,000 for experience. So I don't know if our city has something in place, because we're going to be needing something to be competitive with our local jurisdictions. Next thing I'd like to talk about is there's a number of apartment complexes that leave their trash cans out all week long. And more specifically, at the end of Safford Street at Feather River behind the auto repair store, there's 2 fourplexes. One of them has a dumpster that's accessible from Feather River right next to the skate park. And the other one has 4 units with individual 4 trash cans, 4 recycling bins, and they're all left out on the street all week. They haven't been taken in since Christmas at least. And obviously we all understand that that's an area, and with Ron, all his work that he has to do, that's a huge source of stuff going into the levee, going into the rivers. And so I don't know if there's any type of ordinances that can fine the owners if their tenants don't bring those things in, I just don't know what that process is. So maybe there's something that we could get looked into that. And then most recently, I took a walk from the tennis courts down to the Green Bridge on Saturday. It was about 15 minutes. And very quickly on, I actually witnessed a unhoused gentleman taking a hammer, chiseling out a path through the Feather River Parks Trail behind my house, because when the DWR raised the water levels, it floods that trail. Well, this unhoused individual had a camp on the part that gets flooded. So he thought that if he could chisel out the trail, it would drain his campsite. And so I did report that. I don't know how or what happened about that. But the next morning, Easter morning, I did go back and the gentleman's whole campsite was still there. So I don't know what the ramifications are, but obviously we have a bunch of issues going on over there. I progressed down the trail. I saw another homeless encampment that had basically carved out the whole side of the levee so he couldn't be seen. And there's trees that sit right above him, so now the trees are going to be impacted. And then obviously everybody probably understands, when you get to the Green Bridge, there's graffiti everywhere. And we're not attracting our citizens to use the space. And I really would like to see some type of committee, community involved, council members involved, something to find a way to really wrap up a way to let our citizens use that space and not allow the continued destruction of that space. And my final question is for council. Maybe you can help us help me understand, when a second ordinance is drafted and read, what is the process and what makes it be sent?
Time.
Well, go ahead.
So, Brian, or you can get it from the front
To the city. But if people don't go there,
All right.
and that's the main concern about.
Thank you, Brian.
For
Thank you.
taking the time.
Yep.
All right.
Our next speaker is the cameraman.
Good evening, Oroville City Council. I don't have a whole lot to talk about tonight, just beginning of the month. Just sometimes that's how it is. But I decided I'll take my bicycle out and show up to council tonight anyways, take advantage of this great weather we're having. We have some good events coming up this weekend. I'm sure you guys will mention in your statements and whatnot. I don't want to steal your thunder there. But my event, if you really want to call it an event, but more of a, following the story, we recently last Friday got a jury picked for the Greyhound bus shooting case that happened back in 2022. And opening arguments are supposed to begin this Friday. So hopefully we'll finally close the case on this, tragedy that happened in our town a few years back. I know it was a big thing. Somewhat gets reported on here and there, but now it looks like we're finally going to have a trial begin and see where that goes. We may or may not know the motive. That was one of the questions during voir dire, is if jurors are going to have a problem finding the people's burden of proof, whether or not the defendant gets up and testifies and explains his alleged actions. So, so that's pretty much it. And I know our new deputy chief, I'll be seeing him. He's one of the players. He's on the list of like 20, a bajillion law enforcement officers that are going to be called on this matter. So I'm sure I'll be seeing him there eventually. So, all right, thank you.
Next one.
Our next speaker is Brian Wong.
Good evening, Mr. Mayor, Vice Mayor, and City Councilors. Actually, before I go into talk about what I want to talk about, just a little bit of update on the story about the shooting with the Greyhound bus. So at the time, Union took the effort to raise some money for the little girl and her brother that was affected by that event. And we haven't kept in close touch, but the last information that came back was the father of the kids quit his trucking job. He's really looking after the kids. The kids are doing wonderful. So just know that they're in good hands with the father. So moving into the topic that I do want to talk about in the local businesses and downtown especially, we have been facing many challenges over the past few years with break-ins, car break-ins at the inn, which affects people coming down. Me personally, I attribute a lot of that to Prop 47, which has made crime, not as severe as what it used to be. So last Friday was a very miserable day. It was cold, wet, windy. And it was nice to know that, hey, our DA, along with our police department, our sheriff was out there, and Sean set up the tent and event and actually asked me to go out there and sign the petition to reform Prop 47. So I just want to thank everybody, especially Sean, for setting that up, because in our community as well as businesses, we do need safety and a lot of just a lot more safety measures to keep businesses safe, to keep the big retail in our city safe also, so that people don't steal products. And then also when citizens come into town, they don't have to worry about their cars getting broken into or anything like that. So I encourage you all to support law enforcement and really consider all the efforts that the city can do to help reform Prop 47. Thank you.
Brian, I have a question for you.
Yes.
Do you have an update in regards to how many more signatures that need to be brought forth for the whole state?
Actually, I don't. I just showed up and signed a petition that day. So,
All right, thank you.
As of Friday morning, there were 40,000 short statewide.
40,000 short,
Yeah.
okay.
So our efforts over the last week have garnered another 300 signatures here. And then we're going to have another event. I'm going to talk about that in a minute, which you already know about that one.
Okay, yeah. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
thank you.
Our
That's a
last,
significant difference from 550,000 needed just like a week ago. So, yeah, this is.
Very popular.
Absolutely, thank you.
our last speaker on non-agenda items is Bill Spear.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, City Council. Had a wonderful Resurrection Sunday up on the cemetery. The tomb was empty. Jesus isn't there. Had baptisms at River Bend. About 25 people got baptized. We call it Jordan, AKA River Bend. Maybe we could dedicate a little section and call it Jordan so people can go down to the Jordan. Just a suggestion. The verse for the day is, "And if the spirit of him who raised Jesus from the dead is living in you, he who raised Christ from the dead will also give life to your mortal bodies because of the spirit who lives in you." That same spirit that rose Christ from the dead is in us and is empowering us. And I was just grateful and thankful. It's 25 changed lives Sunday that are no longer being part of the problem, that are being part of the solution. And that's how we change our city, one person at a time. We have another event coming up, One Hope for America. We have the Genesis experience on Friday at the State Theater at 6 o'clock. Anyways, the more we can get people involved in being part of the solution, we are changing our city and we are making a difference. And so, Father God, I thank you for your spirit, that same spirit that raised Christ from the dead that is in us. And I pray that you would continue to empower us, Lord, to intercede for the lost, intercede for the homeless, intercede for the prisoners. We thank you for reopening the jail, Butte County Jail, which is in Orville, letting us go in to minister there. Thank you for the community navigator that is on the streets addressing the people right where they are. Thank you for our rescue mission, that they truly are helping the least of these. And your word says what we've done to the least of these, we've done unto you. And we pray your blessings, that resurrection power for the Hope Center. And thank you for their years of faithfulness in our city. We thank you for all our city council members. We thank you for our police. We thank you for the fire. We thank you for all the upcoming festivals, all the things that you're doing for our Feather Fiesta Days and the celebration. And we thank you that you are always with us. You never leave us nor forsake us. In Jesus' name, amen.
Mayor, that is the last of the public speakers on non-agenda items.
Thank you all. Next item looks like public communication. No, excuse me. Council reports and announcements. Any council member have any reports or announcements? If not, we'll move on to administration. Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Mr. Weber.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. I have two items I'd like to touch on. Mr. Brian Wong got up and talked about one, so I'll start with the reforming Prop 47, and I'll touch on what Council Member Goodson was just talking about with that 541,000 signatures needed. Prop 47 was passed in 2014 as a voter-led initiative under the name of Safe Neighborhoods and Schools Act. And I think it was written with the best intentions for California and Californians. But I think there was some unintended consequences that kind of were birthed out of it that were some exposed loopholes. And part of those were removing what would qualify some crimes as felonies and reducing them down to misdemeanors. And also not having the ability to mandate like treatment for drug addiction. And so we've seen in the last 10 years what some could qualify as an explosion in homelessness, open drug use on the streets, and of course, what they call petty theft, but it's retail theft on a massive scale. Just to give you a little bit of an example, we've seen a 51% increase in homelessness alone in California since 2014, while nationally, we've seen 11% decrease nationally. So in California, it's exploded, 51% increase, nationally 11. And then just in Northern California alone, I was talking to some folks from Walmart the other day, and they were saying that just the Northern California stores, the regional stores, were in the $7 to $10 million loss per year. Okay, just that alone. And so what Janet was referring to with the 541,000, it takes 541,652 qualified registered voter signatures to get something back on the ballot that the voters voted on. So as of last Friday, there were about 40,000 short statewide to get this on the ballot, this initiative that Brian Wong was talking about. Yes, last Friday we had an excellent turnout. We had 250 signatures collected. Since then, Dallas and I have been walking the neighborhood and businesses and getting signatures from them. We've collected probably another, I would imagine, probably 4 or 5 sheets with six signatures each. So we're trying to do our effort. And I know that the council is also, Council Member Johnstone was there, the mayor was there, Vice Mayor Smith was there. And then I know that this Saturday we're going to have another event at the Ace Hardware on Mitchell Avenue from 11 to 1 p.m. Our regional representative, James Gallagher, will be there, amongst others. I believe Doug Lamalfa is supposed to be there too. I'm not sure if he's going to be in town, but this would be a great opportunity for us to come and sign this. I have a little bit of brochures up here, some paperwork if you guys want, explaining what the reformation of Prop 47 will do. There's also a QR code on the back of this page that you can scan, and it'll take you to their website. And then I wanted to invite, Janet and I already spoke. She's going to be coming to the event on Saturday. And so it was, this is really important that we get this back on the ballot in November, because then we could help balance out the checks and balances and restore some order to what we kind of see with the disorder. Like I said, this isn't a, I've been very clear that this has bipartisan support all throughout the state of California. The mayor of San Francisco, the mayor of San Jose, the mayor of San Diego, they all support it, and they all carry a D next to their names. So this is recognized as a much needed law. So we're going to do our best to push it here and see if we could get it on the ballot. and then vote these harmful things out. And to your point, Brian, I think this will help dramatically with being able to, manage that, because I know that Assistant Chief Darnell and Chief Legron deal with this. Code Enforcement Head Ron Belzer, they deal with this daily, the effects of this. So I think once we're able to get that back on the ballot, we're going to be able to mitigate some of those harmful effects that we've seen. And again, I don't think it was an intentional design. I think it was unintended, but we need to strike a balance. So with that being said, I have these things up here if anybody wants some. And also, this is addressed to the council. Oh, did you want to talk about that, Scott? Oh, okay. I thought you were looking at me like you wanted to talk. I would like to circle back as the council to our three-tiered paving plan that we adopted, I believe, in March of last year. We adopted a three-tiered paving plan, and for those in the crowd that may not remember, I know you guys do, we adopted a plan where basically Public Works would take up to $65,000 in value or work, or the scope of work up to Public Works could handle that, and then from $65,000 to $200,000 would be phase 2, and then from $200,000 above would be phase 3. Well, phase 3 would be like full engineering specs, curb, gutter, sidewalk, ADA compliant ramps, the whole 9 yards. Phase 2 would be more like, hey, we've identified a road. We don't want any curb, gutter, and sidewalk work done. We don't need ADA compliant ramps here, but we've got an intersection that's jacked up. We need to grind it and repave it. So I'd like to revisit that because it's come to my attention that we're not spending any money at all in phase 2. And so I'd like to entertain a motion if for future item that we could fund phase 2. And I don't know where, out of an account to be determined by staff and approved by council. And I'd like to do it set up very similar to what the CUPCA is, where we fund it for like $400,000 and give the discretionary horsepower to Fred Mayor, Public Works head, and his team to be able to hire the phase 2 scope of work providers to come in and do the paving we need done, because we're rolling into paving season right now, and we got to put some pavement on the ground. I know we're working on bigger projects like 162, Nelson Avenue. Those are all in the queue. They're going to start happening. The Oro Dam project's not going to actually happen until 2025, but it's in the queue. It's going to happen, and I think it's also good to note that as much as we want Oro Dam done, we can't touch it. It's Caltrans, right? So we can't touch that corridor. It's the worst road in our town, and we can't fix it. So, but that'll be done in 2025. And then also the Ophir Road project, you and I were talking about that earlier. There's been a lot of attention, time, energy, focus, resources to go into these projects, but we need to focus on that phase 2. So I'd like to entertain a motion for however it looks, if we could get it done by next council meeting, where we can fund that phase 2 and give Mr. Mayo the discretionary horsepower to hire people at $400,000 and then work from there.
Okay. Vice Mayor Smith is on cue.
Just to follow up with that, it would be good, just thinking about institutionally, now that I've been here a couple of years, 5, back in the early days, we talked about having a road maintenance plan where all the roads are identified as to their neediness, and then it is applied to, which was a wonderful concept. So, tier 1, 2, and 3, to see where we are in the scope of that work, because that was something that I think we did touch and authorize. So it would be good to kind of know where we are, so we can have an understanding of what we do need to budget towards those 1, 2, and 3 projects. So if we can get an update on that, perhaps,
sure,
that would be amazing.
I was going to update that on our report, but this is a perfect segue to it.
Yeah. Well, and I do have something else to announce, but
okay.
Let me finish that, and then I'll.
Perfect.
And then you're on. Or well, up to the mayor, of course. He's running the show.
No,
yeah, and then so the other piece I just want to share quickly was Wildflower Festival. That's coming up this weekend, which is just a great Oroville event, traditional Oroville event. So I want to invite everyone out from 10 to 4 out at the Riverbend Park. There'll be a lot of vendors out there. Just a great opportunity to use our parks and to enjoy them. And that being said, I got a phone call yesterday from one of the board members of the Parks District. As they were out there prepping, there was quite a few of the unhoused folk. And so I showed up, walked into one of the pavilions, and they all disappeared. It was interesting. So the point is that when we use the parks then the more, just a good thing that we use our parks. But there was, but I'm going someplace with this because there is a happy, or a potential happy ending. I haven't got the final result of it, but so I got a hold of the chief. Our sergeant showed up, and then also MLE, and then the housing navigator, Kyle, which was, again, one of your ideas, I believe, or you were one of the main instruments in this. So there was a unhoused woman with 2 small children, and she was occupying a big part of the pavilion there, which was creating some consternation. And so Kyle intervened, and out of that, perhaps some housing for this, mom just struggling. I mean, you look, your heart goes out to these people, just tough situations. So I just want to say thank you to our law enforcement. It's two-sided. One is, we have to have rules, and people need to follow the rules. And the other side is that compassionate piece of trying to help folks who are truly in a difficult place. And I think that our chief, Bill Lagrone, and our law enforcement MLAs really are striking that happy balance. And so I just want to say thank you to them for doing that.
Okay. Any other council reports? Then administrators, please, staff.
Hello. So I just wanted to mention that at this portion of the council meeting tonight, that our pavement management program closed bid last Friday.
Right.
We got 2 bids, and we're going through those bids, and we're going to be doing interviews early next week on those, with an announcement very soon of who the award bid will go. Now, part of that contract, it gives them about 160 to 180 days to stand up the software, to rate our streets, and develop a PCI score, which is our pavement condition index. From that, we can actually start doing some real strategic and surgical replacement of streets. And without this PCI and our PMP, without it, we're just throwing rocks out in the street and just going for what looks worse. This is actually going to be data that's driven by engineering and actual conditions of the road. They're going to go out and survey every segment of the road, all 95 miles, center lane miles, and give us an actual report card of our entire roadway network. And that takes about 160 to 180 days roughly, hopefully sooner than that. And from there, we'll have a report card. I'll be more than happy to share it with you guys. I'll actually have the contractor who won the award actually come in and present their findings for us. So it's out there, and we can actually start planning very strategically on street dollars. And that was my update.
Okay. Any other department heads?
I have one. We have a new associate planner that I'm happy to introduce to everybody. It's Christina Heredia. Did I say that right, Christina? Yeah, perfect.
All right.
And this is Christina's first day here, and we're really excited to bring her on board. And I'll tell you that when we interviewed her, she nailed spot on all of the customer service or questions that we had that any one of you would have answered, I think, the same way. She really nailed the customer service thing. So we're very excited about that. And she hit all the technical questions just right as well. So we're really looking forward to getting her in the trenches.
Christine, welcome.
Yes,
Happy
welcome.
to have you here.
Any remarks? Yes.
Yeah. Come on up.
Please do.
Come on up to the podium.
Thank you so much.
Push hard.
On. There we go.
I'm on?
Yep.
Okay. I've had such a wonderful welcome and reception. It's so nice to finally be a part of a welcome team, and everybody seems to have a real common goal of the betterment of this community, and I'm excited to be a part of it. So, I do live in Yuba City, so I'm going to be commuting in, and I have 3 dogs and 3 cats. So
Well, that's a balance.
I usually have to carry a roller because I'm covered in pet hair. But yeah, anyways, I've had a great day so far, and I'm looking forward to a nice long time here. So,
All right.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Yes. Great color.
And how about that new 4 lanes commute? Isn't that great? I used to commute on that to Sacramento, and 2 lanes, it was a
yes.
nightmare. So, yeah, awesome.
Dialogue about that
Wait, absolutely.
More importantly, there's a employee purchase program to buy a home in our community.
Yeah, that's true too. Getting loaded up. All right. Okay, any other staff reports? Yep, go ahead.
Yes, just a couple quick updates. The Charter Review Committee met again today. I think this is our 7th meeting, I believe. We will be bringing back recommendations again to the council on the 16th. It's really important to keep this process moving forward because we will be hitting actually election deadlines very soon. So we'll be bringing that back on the 16th. And just 2 quick updates. On April 9th, a week from today, we're going to have a goals and priority workshop out at the golf course at 11:30. And then on April 30th is at 5:30 at the theater, State of the City at 5:30.
Okay.
So there's a few updates for everybody.
All right. Thank you. Any others? Looking around the rest of the department heads, they're not giving them any up nods, down nods? Okay. Mr. Belser, we received a written report on your activities for March. 31 camps, is that right? That's a lot of work. And one of the things that his work is all you see the end result is things are gone. You don't see what happened beforehand. So if you get a chance to see the pictures, I certainly recommend it. All right, next item is consent calendar. Consent calendar's here. I entertain a motion, or does anyone wish to pull a consent item?
Mr. Mayor, I do have 4 speakers for item number 6.
Okay. Okay.
I don't do online. We don't actually take comments on Zoom.
Anna presented a comment online 2 weeks ago. That's true. The same lady presented a comment online 2 weeks ago.
I think it was staff. That might have been staff report.
We do staff.
The consultant
We've
report.
had consultants before. Yeah. I do not recall staff, or I'm sorry, public comments being received online. No.
Okay, that's okay.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm sure. So, how about if we entertain the consent calendar except for item number 6?
I move that we approve the consent calendar exempt item 6.
I'll second.
Call the roll, please.
Motion passes unanimously.
All right, item number 6, Wes.
Mr. Mayor, members of the council, assembled guests, before you is the second reading of this ordinance, where at the previous meeting, the sole point of discussion was whether to approve transient occupancy in new ADUs or require 30-day or longer stay. The direction of the council was to require 30 days or longer, and that is before you today for approval as directed. You will have some comment on this, I'm sure.
Okay, we're ready for public comment. Go ahead.
Our first speaker is Natalie Sheard.
Thank you. With this mandate to allow ADUs in all residential zones, California did not prohibit them being used as short-term vacation rentals. It's a prohibition that you put on when you first looked at it. I'm asking you to reconsider this one prohibition on this new ordinance. The main reason I feel this way is that all other residential uses are allowed in ADUs. Long-term tenancy, which I know is the one we want, a personal guest house for family members and friends, and a residential recovery residence can rotate clients through at 5 clients per bathroom in any newly built ADU. But all of those would take it away, many of those from long-term tenancy. But the one that is prohibited is the short-term vacation rentals, which would have the exact same effect as the others. So I believe that short-term vacation rentals at this time are a great benefit to the city. They're regulated. You have to get an annually renewable license. You have to sign that you agree with the nuisance ordinance, and you have to pay an 11% sales tax monthly. And because it's a licensed use, I believe that you could revisit this. If we started heading to look like San Francisco and Los Angeles, you could make this stricter in the future. But at this time, I believe there are a lot of benefits to allowing short-term vacation rentals. One would be that we can help homeowners stay in their homes. It's getting really expensive with raising utility rates, tax rates, property tax, insurance. And this is an option for a homeowner if they want to spend their own money and build an ADU and rent it out for short-term stays. The short-term vacation rental business model means that you have to have your house beautifully maintained inside and out, which I believe is also a benefit to our neighborhoods. If you do this type of work, if you don't provide a clean, safe place for guests to stay, you won't have any guests. But to me, the most important benefit is that short-term vacation rentals bring tourists and workers and guests who have dollars in their pockets to spend in our businesses. And that is what I feel we desperately need right now. I believe we need to shift toward encouraging more entrepreneurial endeavors that are not government funded, so they're sustainable, they're small. And so I would like to ask you to please remove that restriction and allow this for a time, knowing that you could revisit it in the future if you felt that it was having a negative impact. Thank you.
Thank you. I see there's some council members like to speak. Yeah, I was going to let the public comment go first, and then we'll have a council member speak, all right?
Our next speaker is Brian Williams.
So this ADU ordinance, 1878, does anybody here know how many ADUs have been permitted since 2020, January 2020, when this new law changed? I went in, I put a public records request in, and I didn't get it back, but I talked to Jody at the desk, and she thinks less than 10 in 4 years, ADUs have been permitted and certificate of occupancies. So with that being said, 2 to 2.5 per year. So is it the will of the council to make an ordinance that's going to affect less than 2 homeowners per year in a city of over 20,000 people? I think, like Natalie stated, we might be a little early on this restriction. These are, and then anybody that has got these permits for these ADUs, if we make this restriction, do these other owners get a retroactive restriction? And if so, who's letting these guys know that they're going to be affected, on their title's going to be affected, so they could have spoke at this meeting tonight? So I'm really concerned what may happen to some people that don't know the ramifications of this ordinance. As my knowledge, all these updates that we're doing, we're already 4 years behind. And only 2 changes that are in this code actually happened in January 24. So again, I don't think we're in a hurry to make sure we get it right. And so that's another reason. I understand that I had a question about what changes, what makes it go back no matter what. There's some typos in this ordinance that I believe are detrimental to the city. So under letter O, item 2 of use restrictions, is it the intention of the city council to prohibit the use of any dwelling unit on the subject parcel that has an ADU on it from short-term rentals? So the way that it's written, it tells me that if I'm a homeowner and I want to put an ADU on my house, I can no longer short-term rental my own house, as well as that ADU. And again, that is very concerning as a homeowner. ADUs can provide additional living space, a source of rental income, and flexibility in property utilization. They can be a viable housing solution for extended families or create additional income sources, not just one. People can be creative and make income to help them cheapen their own cost of living. These ordinances, as drafted, will encourage property owners who want to be Airbnb hosts. They're going to go buy triplexes and fourplexes and displace our existing tenants to be able to have 3 legal residences they could Airbnb on the same parcel. So instead of preventing somebody from not putting one new parcel that they want to invest in their property and bring to the city that won't be an Airbnb for 40 years, it's going to probably be an Airbnb just enough to get their home money back. But so let's not put a restriction on somebody, and let's keep our tenants already in their houses when they're already spending more than half their money for that rent. So please remove the
Time.
Thank you. Thanks, sir. Next one.
Our next speaker is Stephanie Holston.
Welcome, Stephanie.
Hello, everybody. Okay, I came from work, so I have my phone to guide me and aid me, so excuse me when I look down to make sure I'm staying on task. Since Anna couldn't speak, I said, go ahead and tell me what you want to say. And I hope you know Anna Kastner. She is kind of the ruling overlord at the fish hatchery and has been for quite a long time, so she deals with tourism a lot. And she just wanted to say that there's many visitors that she believes who would love to visit this town and like to be able to stay together, you know, maybe in a small rental instead of a hotel. She says, you know, keep your mind open on that, please. It makes sense to have visitors enjoy the local town, so to be able to actually stay in the neighborhoods as well. And she just says hello as well. So I hope that I can really start this off by saying I think that what we have here in this town of Oroville, the day-to-day that we have and the connections, we really get the opportunity that cities don't have to feel life's desires for arts and culture and people and connections. And I have spent quite a bit of time traveling around the world, and I've only stayed in Airbnbs, short-term rentals, and that was for a very specific reason. I was not going to get the same experience if I stayed in a hotel. I've stayed in hotels too, but for different reasons. I've gotten to stay at people's houses or in their backyards, in these studios, converted carriages and so forth, where people have shared their lives with me. Scotland, all over the place. And I think it's amazing if the city could keep an open mind for the unknowns that we don't have now. I know we spoke with Brian Ring, and I said, do we know how much money is coming in on this transient tax? Who's pursuing it for all the people that are using it right now? Can we get a read? Can we get a feel as this town grows and as we want to continue to share all the beautiful things that this town has to offer? And hopefully maybe convince some of those people to want to come and be a part of it and have families that maybe feel right now that might be a way for me to figure out if I want to do a long-term rental. I could start off on a platform that allows me to do some short-term sampling in a very safe environment that is throughout the globe well trusted. So again, I'm hoping that we can be open-minded on this and maybe not put a horse before a cart that isn't ready, perhaps. I think that's really all I wanted to say. If we could stay open-minded and open-armed and not close off options, because that is another thing about Oroville. We are about choice and freedom and independence. And I will remember one thing when we had the conversation about, well, we got Taco Bell. We don't need the other tacos. We like choice. And both platforms are different, right? You get a Taco Bell experience, or you can get your different traditional taco. It's the same with short
time.
Thank you, Stephanie. Thank you. All right.
Our last speaker is Julie Miller.
Evening.
Welcome, Julie.
Thank you. I just want to talk about item number 6. I would like to remind the council that the Planning Commission voted for the restriction of the 30-day minimum, for the ADUs to be lifted. They did not want to see these restrictions placed on the citizens of Oroville, and they cited several reasons for that. They mentioned a need for short-term rentals for traveling professionals. They also said that it'd be wonderful for homeowners to have freedom and flexibility of their property use. And they also mentioned the benefit to the city for the income from the hotel tax. So they really were concerned about the deed restrictions as well on these houses. So I agree with that wholeheartedly. I think that you guys are all freedom-loving individuals. I know that for an absolute fact. And California is a really hard state to do business in. Don't know if you guys know that or not, but I'm a landlord. I have tenants. It is a very, very unfriendly state for landlords. And we're talking about adding more restrictions onto our citizens of Oroville when there's absolutely no need for it. You guys are asking for restrictions, and the state of California is like, oh, actually, you don't need to do these restrictions. But why are we doing this? Like, I don't understand. You guys haven't explained to me or given any good reasons as to why we need a 30. I heard the council meeting last month. I heard all the arguments. I didn't hear any good ones for why we need 30 days. We just decided to restrict our homeowners in Oroville. guys, please, I really don't think we should be adding restrictions onto the citizens if it's unnecessary. Let's leave this as open and flexible as possible so that our homeowners can have full rights of their property. And I'd like to just ask you guys to think about if you had an ADU in your backyard, if you wanted to rent it for 30 days, great. But what if you wanted to leave it open for your family who's coming from out of town or your friends? You know, it's like, oh, well, I don't want it to be booked for that full 30 days. I'd like to book it for a couple weeks, open it up for my family member who's coming in June, and then I can rent it out again. Full flexibility. So that's something that I also thought about if I were to build an ADU. So thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Julie?
That is the last of the speakers.
Okay, with the public comment concluded, Vice Mayor Smith is on the queue.
Natalie, is it possible you could come back up to the mic? That's okay. I commented on this when we first touched it. I'm inclined to agree with every comment that's just been made. I think I expressed that. And I was under the assumption that the ordinance that we received, we ended up keeping it intact as it was presented from the planning. So when I am understanding that we, as a council, we went in and we put the 30-day, we added that, I thought that had come that way from planning. That's interesting, because I'm in full agreement with the planning department on this, actually. So staff, because I did talk about this beforehand, and the concern is that if we have no deed restrictions, just open-ended, that we would, for example, some cities, especially beach
Yes.
cities, right, where then that becomes, and I think the mayor had alluded to this, parking issues,
Oh,
you
yeah.
know, being overwhelmed, and then people aren't able to freely enjoy their personal private property because of the impacts that are there. I don't think we have that problem in Oroville. I think it
yet.
is a proverbial cart before the horse. I would agree with that assessment. And I'm willing, yeah, it would cause it to go back again, but I'm in full agreement, and I actually misunderstood, so I apologize.
Oh.
Because I thought we were in sync with the planning department on this item. So, and I asked you to come up just to clarify that.
Oh, yeah.
So this is not
No.
as
No,
the planning.
the consultant recommended that we put it in. We had a long-distance consultant who built it, and we went through, and we said, we don't think we need that now in Oroville at this time. We'd rather have flexibility.
Yeah, and I'm all about personal property rights. You know, whether it's the tree ordinance or this particular ordinance, the more freedom,
That's what I thought.
right, that we can offer our citizens, I think, you know, unless there becomes an overwhelming and compelling argument that we need to restrict it
Absolutely.
because now we're encroaching into somebody else's freedom to enjoy their property.
We don't want to be
then
San
that-
Francisco.
We don't. So I'm certainly open to opening this back up and going around the lap one more time. So I'll reserve my comments from here to hear from other council people.
Councilman Thompson.
For the sake of time, I just want to say I agree with what he just said.
Okay.
How's that?
All right.
You said it so well, so, yes.
Quick question I have, and this kind of goes to the city attorney and/or maybe Wes. Maybe Wes want to come up. The issue was raised on that section O, and in section O, as I would look at that, if you have it with you.
Yes.
The one line that I would like for clarification, and it says in paragraph 2, the third sentence, it says prohibition on the use of any dwelling on the subject parcel for transient habitation. What does that mean?
That's essentially the option to restrict stays to 30 days or longer. Transient habitation is overnights, Vrbo, Airbnb, that sort of thing.
So, again, and what I'm looking for is if in fact we do what's suggested here, wouldn't we have to make some other changes in this document?
So I'd have to look a little bit more carefully, but the difference between transient occupation and non-transient occupation is sort of set out in the state law. And it says that once you hit 30 days, it's not transient anymore.
Okay.
So that's where that comes from.
And section O is verbatim from the state code.
Right.
If you choose to have that restriction on.
And I only asked the question because, as many of you might understand, we never created this ADU ordinance. The state of California created it and sent it to all of us, and said, here, deal with it. So we didn't have this idea, the city council didn't, no elected local body did. The state of California created this ordinance and sent it to us, and then they sent us an updated version, and this is where we're at. So I think it's a valid question. If in fact we do suggest with two councilmen here, we would probably need to make some change in that paragraph.
We would probably have to take section O out again.
Okay.
And it would be silent on the length of stay that would be
Okay.
required.
Thank you. Appreciate that answer. Councilman Weber is on.
Yeah, thank you. Can I just make a motion that we remove that language? That we remove that section, so we could,
If we could hold that, I'd like to have everyone speak first.
okay.
Who else was up?
I took mine off because I'm
Oh.
in agreement, so.
Okay, all right. Then Vice Mayor Smith is back in the queue.
Yeah, and just to add one more piece to this, there's a lot of missed opportunity for tax revenue for the city because we haven't even done a full, I think, assessment of Airbnbs, which Ms. Sheard owns one. Thank you. Beautiful house. Great job. And so there's opportunity. And then additionally, with the T-bid, also, I don't believe you pay the T-bid right now. So there's probably. That's a Butte County, Explore Butte County.
Yeah.
It's a 2 and 6.
Right.
Okay, so is that a requirement that Airbnbs in Oroville pay on the T-bid?
Yes, anybody that
Okay,
does
that's
short-term lodging.
Short-term, okay, just wanted to verify that. So, that being said, just a point of that if we establish, then there's also additional opportunity for revenues, to take care of business for our city.
Yes. Mr. Williams previously thought that about 2 ADUs per year were permitted here. I think it's closer to about 4, plus garage conversions. And if you convert a garage and put a kitchen in it and such, you can rent that out as an Airbnb or Vrbo. So probably about 10 per year is what we're seeing here.
Thank you. Well, and I will add too that this has been brought forth a lot of discussion, so be it. That's what should happen. I think the public has responded to this, and I think it's good conversation. I know one conversation I had with an elderly lady that's retired, and she can't afford to live in her house any longer, and she needs to put an ADU there so she can afford to stay in her house. So that's a perfect example of what we haven't seen before. This is new territory. It's even new for staff because we don't have that many units that we're dealing with. So I understand the conversation, and go ahead, Vanessa.
Well, on your point, Section O, Item 1, actually might address that woman's concerns a little bit. It says any single-family zoned property with a primary residence and an ADU that's constructed after January 1st of 2025, the owner of the property can live in either unit. And so that gives them the opportunity to
use
lease
either.
out the main house and live in the smaller unit, so.
Okay.
Now, we're removing Section O, so
Right.
that's.
And I'm gonna look, let me go with, we'll go back to his motion. Your motion was to,
Remove section O, on the,
and the minimum days to rent. Okay. Does that work for you staff-wise, understanding that?
Yes.
Do we need a motion or just?
He made a motion, he made a second. I think we need to make voted direction. Yes, sir.
So let's go back one more time.
You,
So this is the procedure as to Mr. Mr. Lasting.
Yeah.
Williams' point is in Government Code Section 36934. So this would constitute an alteration, and you then require a 5-day delay before you can bring it back, either at another regular meeting or at a resumption of this regular meeting that happens at least 5 days from now, which I don't think is technically possible. So that's the process that you would go through. If you were to direct staff to go ahead and make that alteration, it would have to come back, and then Wes would be obligated to, have it conform in all respects to that direction, if that makes sense.
yeah. But a vote would be proper to give direction to staff.
You can do it by vote, or you can just do it by
Nod your
direction.
head.
Okay.
Yeah.
Either way.
I think you have direction.
You'll see this on the next regular agenda.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
And thank you all.
Yes.
People in action. All right. All right, so item number 6 is basically the direction given. All right, very good. Thank you all. Thank you. And regular business, we'll move to item number 8, which is agreement with Bartle Wells Associates and fee study update. You bet.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Council. Tonight, due to time constraints and associated with implementing the new regional ADU equivalent formula and the updated sewer rates that are coming from adjacent agencies, we reached out to Bartlett and Wells Associates to look at our fee structure. Our fee structures haven't been looked at since 2013. They've built us up a rate study, and we're here to ask for you guys to execute that contract for us not to exceed by $27,000. We have Bartlett Wells on Zoom, and they'd like to unpack the study findings with you. And at this point, I'd like to introduce Michael DeGroot, and he'll take it away from here.
Welcome, Michael.
Good evening. So my name is Michael DeGroot. I'm Vice President with Bartle Wells Associates, and we also have Ashley Wong, who's a financial analyst helping me on this project. And I'd like to just go through a presentation on the results of the wastewater rate study. And we're looking for your approval to set the date of the public hearing and mail notices. However, we do have some room in the schedule to come back in a couple weeks with any edits or changes that you'd like to see. So the presentation overview here, we're going to talk about the legal requirements for your wastewater rates, which is Proposition 218, go over the wastewater enterprise background, and then talk about the wastewater rate survey and bill impacts. So the legal requirements for wastewater rates is governed by Proposition 218, and there are procedural requirements where you must mail a notice of the proposed rate increases to all affected property owners, and then hold a public hearing prior to adopting the proposed rate increases not less than 45 days after the required notices are mailed. And then some substantive requirements, including that the amount of the fee or charge levied on any customer shall not exceed the proportional cost of service attributable to that customer. The revenues derived from the fee or charge cannot exceed the funds required to provide the service, and the revenues from the fee or charge can only be used for the purpose for which the fee is imposed. So some background on your wastewater enterprise. The city provides wastewater collection, which is essentially conveying the wastewater to the treatment plant, while Sewerage Commission Oroville region provides treatment or cleansing of the wastewater. And the city collects and passes on the treatment charges to SCOR. And the city has left wastewater collection rates unchanged over the last 5 years, while SCOR treatment rate increases were passed through. So this shows you your current wastewater rates. And so the city of Oroville, which does wastewater collection, charges $23.56 per equivalent dwelling unit per month. And an equivalent dwelling unit is equal to one single family home. While Sewerage Commission Oroville region charges $23.85 per EDU per month for treatment. So the total bill for wastewater is $47.41 per month. So how does your rate compare to the neighboring agencies? We did a regional rate survey, and essentially, hopefully you can see this. The current rate here for City of Oroville is $47.41, and the regional average is $59.98. And you can see that the charges vary from $37.82 per month all the way up to $129.86. So you're below average on the survey. So reasons for the wastewater rate increase. You've got projected future inflation in your operating costs, And you're also projected to incur about $13.6 million for wastewater enterprise collection system capital improvement projects over the next 5 years. And also you've got a pass-through for treatment costs for SCOR. So also there's a change to the equivalent dwelling unit. SCOR updated new EDU definitions for multifamily and mobile home units, where one multifamily is equal to 0.88 EDUs per unit, and mobile home units are equivalent to 0.85 EDUs. And previously, these were all equal to 1 EDU. And this change was based on regional census data, which showed that there are less people per unit on average for multifamily and mobile home units. And there was some threat of lawsuit over this particular issue, which really spurred the change. So this change results in a difference of 310 EDUs for the city of Oroville, or about 3.3% of your total EDUs. However, we're projecting about 3% annual growth each year in the next 3 years, and then 2% following that. So the amount of growth that you're getting in your customer base will really make up for that loss of EDUs quite quickly. And this slide here shows you the 5-year capital improvement plan. And you've got various projects such as sewer lines, bypass pumping, lift stations, and the total of your 5-year plan is $13.6 million approximately. And so this slide shows you the proposed rates, and you're charging the wastewater collection rate, currently $23.56, and that would go to $26.06 on July 1st, 2024, and then slowly phasing up to $34.15 in year 5. And you can see the wastewater treatment rates were adopted by SCOR, and those would go from $23.85 to $24.49, and then up to $29.77. So the total bill would go from $47.41 up to $63.92 per month. And this shows you the monthly impact of those changes. And you can see that the total monthly increase in the first year is $3.14. And then the second year is $3.04 a month, $3.24 per month in the third year, $3.44 in the fourth year, and $3.65 in year 5. And this shows graphically what that looks like for a single family residential customer. You can see it's phasing up from $47.41 to $50.55 in the first year, up to $63.92 in year 5. So this slide shows you how your proposed rates compare to the other tributary agencies to SCOR. And so you can see that Thermalito Water and Sewer is looking at increasing that from $44.75 up to $64.59 in year 5. And these haven't been adopted yet. These are just what's being noticed and considered. And then Lake Oroville Public Utility District, currently they're at $52.06, and they're proposing going up to $64.97 in year 5. And this would be for a gravity customer. They also have a pumped category, which pays an additional $6.07 per month. So even after these proposed increases, you will still be on the low side compared to these other tributary agencies. So this is the schedule. We're looking for approval of these rates at this meeting. And then if approved, to mail the notice, we would finalize those and postmark them by April 16th. And then we would have the public hearing on Tuesday, June 4th, where those rates would be considered for adoption. And we have an optional delayed schedule where we would come back on April 16th to present any changes. And then in that schedule, we would finalize and postmark the notices by April 30th. and come back for a public hearing on June 18th. And so that's it for the presentation, and I'm happy to take any questions and comments.
Looks like Councilman Goodson's on the queue.
Yes, question. When was the last time there was a rate increase?
So it's been held flat for the last 5 years.
Thank you.
Any other questions from council? Will we open it up for the public?
Mr. Mayor, I have one email to note that you all have in front of you from Walt McNeil. And then I do have one public speaker, Brian Williams.
Hello, Council, City Mayor. This may be relevant or not, and you can tell me if it's not relevant, and we can try to address this another spot. But since it's about the sewerage fees, I felt it was appropriate to talk. My wife and I recently bought the empty field parcel next to us over by the tennis courts, and my understanding is it's had a sewer service pipe connected to that parcel for 20 years and has been paying sewer connection, not connection fees, but service fees for 20 years without one drop of water going in that pipe. And so I've been trying to reach out to the city. I've reached out to SCORE. They kind of both go like this. They're trying to figure it out on what that means. And so we have a parcel that we have to pay this $650 a year, and it looks like it's going to go up to almost $750 a year within a number of years. And what SCORE told me was, well, you can cap it, and then you don't have to pay your fee, but if you ever want to use that pipe again, you got to pay the whole connection fee, the service fee, the impact fees to the city, and everything else. And I didn't know if there was some type of situation where, say, because I believe it was put in on that parcel to develop it and sell it to a developer, and it never got developed. And so I'm trying to find a way to, if I don't get to use the pipes, is there a smaller fee that can help reserve the capacity in the system without having to potentially in 5-10 years now that connection fee might go from $10,000 to $20,000. But so I'm trying to understand, do I just have to keep paying this fee for nothing? Or is there some way that it could still potentially pay a smaller fee to help out with whatever they need service-wise, but we're not putting any load in the system, they're not having to maintain anything, so it would literally just to be to hold capacity? Or maybe there's a temporary thing where we could cap it, and then if there's available later, it could be uncapped with having to go through all those fees again. And so that was kind of my question. I'm not against what they're proposing. I understand that we need to make sure that we have good systems and can make sure that we take care of our city. So thank you for taking the moment to listen to my story. Thank you.
Mayor, I have a short answer to that.
Mr. Mayor, that was the only public speaker.
Say again?
That is the only public speaker.
Vice Mayor Smith wants to add a comment.
Just very smart that you kept paying that, because you just saved yourself $10,000 when you go to build on that piece of property. I looked into that because I've looked at property to develop, and I don't think, I never stumbled into any way to save paying that monthly rate. But good job, because otherwise you would have definitely had to pay.
Well, no, you pay no matter what.
It's in the taxes, sure.
So I'm trying to figure
Yeah.
out if it's supposed to be there at that rate, or if it's not supposed to be. So again, I'm just trying to educate myself.
That's a question for staff, city staff during the week at the office.
Yeah. To the consultant, do you have any comments about that particular situation?
Yeah, typically customers need to pay their, annual or monthly sewer rate in order to maintain their capacity in the system. And if they were to stop paying, that's when you would lose your capacity.
Any other staff comments?
No, I would agree. If you're not paying the fee, it would be considered abandoned, and then you'd get hit, like Mr. Smith say.
Right.
Extra capacity fees, new tap, and the rest of it, so.
Okay. We happen to have the manager of SCORE in the audience. Maybe you could come up and add a comment to that. Mr. Sturtevant.
I came here because Mr. Mayo and Mr. Ring asked me to come and explain SCORE's part of this. As far as you're concerned, sir, SCORE has a policy where we don't reserve capacity, and basically you'd be reserving capacity. We have a capacity on a first come, first served basis. So as Mr. Mayo said, if you were to not pay, you'll lose the capacity. And then like you said, if that fee goes up, then you're going to pay the higher fee later. So that's just a math problem. You got to figure out if the 23 or 2449, the score is worth having the availability to keep that capacity. We had a similar situation with a business. They had 411 EDUs. They wanted to keep them so they could sell it, but they didn't want to pay the fee. They lost them. $2 million in connection fees. They lost them. I mean, it's just, it prevents other businesses from being able to come in and get that capacity. So that's why we have to do it. And we are very limited on capacity at SCORE. Hence the upgrade that's triggering the.
So when you said $23 a month.
That's just the SCORE portion. $23.85 is the SCORE portion currently.
Right, and then where's the other part go?
The city has their portion.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that's for the collection part of it. The SCORE portion is for the treatment part of it. I can't speak to their fees.
And so where do two separate fee structures represent reserved capacity when neither of those are being allocated to the bill that we pay?
We have that EDU for your parcel listed as your EDU for your parcel. So we do have it tied to you at the
But
parcel
you're not
number.
doing any treatment.
No.
But if we were treating it,
We
you still have
don't
to
know
treat
that.
it.
But
Right.
we don't know
You
that.
don't know
Okay.
that.
We have no idea whether you're putting
Right.
stuff down the sewer or not. So in order to protect the plant, part of that is a contract that you've entered into. You're paying that service to say, this is my service, and I promise I'm not gonna put bad stuff into the sewer.
Okay.
I think we should.
Yeah, all right. We got the and one of the confusions here is, SCORE is the Sewage Commission of Oroville Region that treats all of our effluent. The bodies, the city, Loped, and Twisted all provide the piping to deliver that to the plant. That's why we have two different fees here. So, and that's what he's talking about, reserve capacity, because if you do give it up, it's first come, first serve, and if we get near the end of the capacity, then you may not get any sewer service.
True.
So that's something to hold out, and I appreciate that question. Did any council members have any question of SCORE?
Nope.
At this point? Thank you, Glenn, for coming up.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, Glenn. All right. No other public comment?
I'll make a motion.
Entertain a motion for council.
I move that the council go ahead and execute an agreement with Bartle, Wells and Associates, also to provide input on the preliminary wastewater fee study and authorize to mail out for notices for Proposition 218.
Second.
The motion is seconded. Call the roll, please. Oh, excuse me. All right.
Motion carries with 6 yeses and 1 no.
All right. Thank you all. Next item, number 9, agreement with Mark Thomas and Company Incorporated for Active Transportation Project Cycle 7 Grant Writing Assistance for Table Mountain and Washington Avenue funding. Mr. Mayo.
This would be me again. Hello,
Right.
folks. Good evening. The city has begun discussions with Mark Thomas and Company to explore ATP grant writing for the city regarding the Table Mountain, Washington Avenue corridor plans. Mark Thomas has a strong track record in writing and preparing, more importantly, winning ATP grants from the state of California. We feel that it's our best footing to be the most competitive at a statewide level because we're competing against San Diego, Los Angeles, San Francisco, and other areas. Mark Thomas came highly recommended from BCAG in the city of Paradise. BCAG, Mr. Ivan is in the house tonight as well. And we have representatives from Mark Thomas as well. Matt, while there's no guarantee of us winning any grants in the ATP, the information that we do gather through this study will put us in better positioning for the next cycle, which is in 2 years. I'm not saying if we're going to win, is when we're going to win. And I feel very confident, and I'm going in with the mindset that we're getting money on the Cycle 7 and then going for Cycle 8 in 2 years. I'm asking that you guys authorize and execute the contract with Mark Thomas and Company to grant writing.
Thank you, sir. I'll add a comment that all good road projects start with an endeavor.
Mm-hmm.
And as you look at Highway 162 today, we're finally seeing work being done. That project started in 2015. And I'm not saying that it's going to take that long. I'm just saying that if you don't ask and you don't get ready for it, you'll never get anything, the way that California works. So thank you for your presentation, and thank you, Ivan, for being here tonight. I'd like to introduce Ivan from BCAG. He's been one of our big helpers at the Butte County Association of Governments. So thank you, Ivan. Council questions, anyone? Yeah.
Make a motion.
Go ahead.
Just real quick, if you can just share, so BCAG, and then we're looking to have this contractor relationship. So how does that interrelate with BCAG and then with what we're doing with this other work here as presented?
Good evening. My name's Ivan Garcia. I am the programming director for the Butte County Association of Governments. It's my job to help the local agencies secure federal and state funding. Regarding the effort from the city of Oroville to pursue active transportation program with Mark Thomas and Company, I'm here just to convey to you all this corridor will compete well, whether if it's active transportation program or not. It could be other federal or state funding opportunities. Whatever work is produced from this work effort will be used to move forward. BCAG, at its last Board of Directors board meeting, approved $2 million for the preliminary engineering component for Washington, thank you, and $500,000 for Table Mountain. This agency is not going to program any funds if we don't think it's going to be a good project regardless of funding. As you all know, the city of Oroville has limited north-south connections. You don't have options. With the construction of the high-density residential up off of Table Mountain, you got the high school. It checks all the boxes. So, in my opinion, it's a low-risk investment.
It's a win-win.
Yeah, the active transportation program, I don't want to give false hope. It's going to be super competitive. There's a little over $500 million being made available in this active transportation program, Cycle 7. Whether or not you get it or not, quite honestly, it doesn't matter to me. We're going to press forward, and you still need to have that preliminary engineering components developed. You'll fully vet what needs to get done, what you all support. I'm not here to tell you what to do or what not. I'm just saying it'll compete well.
But representing BCAG, you come with full support of this, Mark Thomas, and this is an absolute necessary step in the whole
as
project.
programming director, I would not have recommended that the board of directors put congestion mitigation and air quality program funds if I didn't think it was worthwhile effort.
And we're very appreciative of that, by the way. So,
It's
what you do every day.
Yeah,
it's
your
a
thing.
job. BCAG's an extension of you all.
Sure,
so.
and we appreciate that greatly. Thank you.
And Yvonne's been a great resource for us, and he's been a great point of contact over at BCAG with us, reestablishing the conversation and the relationship of the BCAG with the city of Oroville. And I can't thank him enough to get us to where we're at. I also have Matt from Mark Thomas. If you'd like to make a few comments, it'd be a great time for him to maybe address council as well.
Thank you, Matt. Welcome.
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Chair, Council. Really appreciate the opportunity. As Yvonne mentioned, we've talked with Fred and staff about the vision for both corridors within the ATP program. As Yvonne said, I think it'll compete very well. It checks all the boxes for what the types of projects that the state is funding. We've had tremendous experience as a company. I'm principal engineer with the company. We've secured money for Paradise, worked with Chico, Roseville, Lincoln on these type of grant applications. Just some numbers so I can share them with you. Yvonne mentioned $500 million statewide. The program runs every 2 years, so it's on the even number years, 24, 26. You can make an application in 24. If it gets funded for preliminary engineering, you can then make subsequent asks and subsequent grant programs every 2 years to move forward with construction right away. So having a vision for the corridor and developing a strong application, I think is key. One real strong point here within the ATP. So of the $500 million, 40% of that is statewide competition, everyone in the state, but 10% is set aside for small, urban, and rural, which Oroville would qualify for as well. And then there's a large component for disadvantaged communities, of which Oroville would fit within that category as well. So I do think it's a very, very strong candidate for the ATP program, not only in this cycle, but upcoming ones. So happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Questions? Go ahead.
Amy had mentioned that we had just crossed that population threshold, the 20,000, and there was some sort of temporary exemption or set aside. Would that aid in this? I mean, or does that affect this at all?
No, it's
for housing.
Okay.
They released it just for housing. So, and then I also, for the economic development, it was released under 50,000, but it just depends on what area or what grant funding you're wanting to, because community facilities, it's not rural, so.
Because my concern would be, that road needs love now. And it would just be really disappointing to get down the road, no pun intended, only to find that, it doesn't happen, and then now what? So.
Right.
So I move. Can I make a motion?
Right.
Are any other questions before we make a motion?
Just real quick.
Sure, go ahead.
So just so I understand, regardless of whether we get the grant, it's being recommended that we do everything that we need to do to apply for the grant, because every 2 years we can use that initial information to refund or reapply for grants?
Not only this grant, but there's other federal and state funding opportunities. So regardless, they're going to prepare and gather the information that you need anyway. Anyway, so in my opinion, it's a low risk. And like a month or so ago, I invited the California Transportation Commission Deputy Director and the Program Manager for the Active Transportation Program. And we did a site tour of projects we have completed, are underway, and those which are planned. So we toured the area. We toured Palermo, Safe Routes to School in South Oroville over there. We went through this corridor, went up to Paradise and Chico. As a region, we have helped secure over 90 million in the last 6 cycles. So my approach is to bring in the big guns, review the area, and hear outside independent expertise. What do you think about this corridor? What do you think if we put the seed money, lay out the foundation? Is this a high risk or not? And
Awesome.
their comment was, you have a strong track record.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank
thank
you.
you very much. And I will add too that when Mr. Mayo got the job, I walked in his office, I said, hey, you got 30 days to meet BCAG's deadlines. I think it was September 1st to develop a project. So kudos to you and staff for helping us get a project put together.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And Mr. Mayor, if I may, the idea here is we don't know which grant to apply for specifically. It could be for the whole Table Mountain, Washington project. It could be just for Washington, but that's why we have a not to exceed figure in the contract. And once they get into the weeds, they will know what looks like it'll compete best this go around. But as mentioned, this data is going to be tremendously helpful for this grant, future grants, other ATP grants.
And that's the approach to strategize once you dive in there and start going through the applications, and every point you really try to get the maximum.
Yeah, and kudos to you for taking them out to the Palermo schools, schools project, because I believe the staff or the commissioners had a comment about that particular project.
They told me I should have asked for more money.
All right, that's cool. All right.
All right. I move that we authorize the execution of an agreement with Mark Thomas and Company.
I'll second.
Motion and second. Call roll, please.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you all, and appreciate staff and everyone being here tonight. Thank you. You're very helpful. Number 10 is project task order for professional construction management and planning services with Trover Construction Management for the new corporation yard. Fred, here we go again.
Good evening, everybody. So this is kind of a check-in, and so we're working with Trover. We're asking for approval of the task order for them to do construction management processes for us, space identification out there at the courtyard to help us build some renderings and some preliminary drawings of what the space actually looks like out there, and to help writing RFPs for all the tentative improvements out there. Bottom line, I'm working with Trover to help us stay on track out there, on budget, if not under budget, and to keep track of everything very carefully. And that was loud and clear on being very prudent with money. I'm trying to treat this as it's my own personal checking account, and I'm very frugal, and I'm very proud of that fact. And Nick's team is a proven leader. They've done a lot of great work for us here in the city currently and before, and He's already established himself at the city, so we're asking to execute and authorize the task order with them.
Okay. Any council questions? Do we have any public comment?
Mr. Mayor, I do not have any public speakers on this item.
Vice Mayor Smith?
Yeah, the old adage, build with the end in mind. So, yeah, and I know you had outlined a lot of items in there, and I think the build out, you estimated around 2 million.
Yes.
When we get done after purchase.
Yes.
So I guess you're feeling that this relationship would help assist you in keeping within the scope of that budget. The only thing it would be nice, because, as I'm looking at some of the projects, I didn't think of that. All the things you don't see that you can't see just because, the nature of it. So it'd be nice to have frequent updates as to where we are and then, kind of like that end game. So I'm always concerned about these kinds of things. You taking old property and you're trying to rehabilitate it, it always ends up, we didn't see that. So it'd just be good to have frequent updates.
I agree. And so as the night goes tonight, if my ask are granted and authorized, I'm going to have one of our contractors here probably at the first council meeting so they can update on what they've actually did and have some photographs and we could talk about it. I plan on doing that. Me and Nick have spoke and we're looking at middle of May, maybe the first in June with an update from Trover, what the space is actually going to, how we're imagining it and some conceptual drawings, not to put too much pressure on Nick over there, but to have regular updates.
Yeah.
Ideally, probably about every second or third council meeting, we're going to have some type of an update of what's going on out there with pictures and where we're at with our budget. So,
Thank you.
thanks.
No public comment on this? Okay. I entertain a motion if there are more questions.
Move to approve the task order with Trover Construction Management.
Second. Call the roll, please.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you. Item number 11, agreement with AccuAlarm for security monitoring services at 655 Cal Oak Road.
Hello, everybody. Once again, good evening. So we are currently working with AccuAlarm, and I'm asking for you guys to approve this contract. After the other previous owner left, it vacated a very open, vulnerable space out there. There was an alarm system out there, but we're currently under construction, doing a very enhanced security system out there that I don't really want to share at a public level, but it is a very modern and very robust security system that's currently under construction. As a sidebar, Public Works crews have actually done a lot of the work out there in conjunction with AccuAlarm, and I want to make sure the street department gets their due because they've done several hundred feet of trenching and laid in conduit pre-work for AccuAlarm and for our IT folks doing fiber optic out there to make it a real first-class building when we get out there. We're going to have good fiber optics and a fantastic security system. Our fire system out there, it's going to be a direct report fire system. We have a nice sprinkler system out there, but it doesn't tell anybody. So now we're going to actually have real 24-hour monitoring of all of our beautiful equipment out there. So there's a lot of substantial improvements out there, and that's what this contract with AccuAlarm is.
Cool.
And if I may, Mr. Mayor, again, I think the security and the safety of the facility and the folks out there is first and foremost. So that's why these two items are kind of, this one and the next item are up on the agenda right now. It's just critical that we button down that place and make sure it's adequately secure.
Any public comment?
Mr. Mayor, there are no public speakers on this item.
Thank you. Council questions? Entertain a motion.
I move that we approve the agreement with AccuAlarm for security and monitoring service at 655 Cal Oak Road.
You got a second? Here.
Sure,
So,
second.
call the roll, please.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you all. Appreciate staff. Again, item number 12, agreement with Williams Electric Company for electrical services at 655 Cal Oak Road.
So moved.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Fred Mayo.
I actually heard a motion. Do I hear a second? Motion and second. Any public comment?
There are no public speakers on this item.
Call the roll.
Thank you, everybody.
Goodson.
Yes,
She's falling behind you. Oh, yeah.
Motion carries unanimously.
All right.
being well prepared.
Excellent. Well prepared.
Good job, Fred.
Thank you, everybody. Item number 13, city investments. That would be Ruth. Hey,
Good
Ruth.
evening, Mayor Pittman and council members. We're asking tonight to reallocate a previously approved $10 million investment. Our former treasurer was working on opening accounts with Class and Camp, and it just never happened. And so we want to reallocate the $10 million that you approved to go to those two funds to invest with our already existing CD investment broker so that everything's all in the same place. And so we wanted to invest this $10 million in treasuries since we have CDs already. So we want to just kind of expand our portfolio into treasuries. And that will be with the LPL Financial, and the representative, Ryan Midkiff, is here tonight if you have any questions. So basically it's just a reallocation of $10 million that you approved for other investments that never happened.
So, is that the gentleman?
Yeah.
Just a snapshot, just for a refresher, please.
So, good evening, everybody. So basically what I was proposing is $10 million to be invested into U.S. Treasuries. Your investment policy allows for 100% allocation to these, so that goes to show like how safe these investments are. And another thing is diversification. There is no allocation to these yet. So with having that much space to be allocated towards something like that, I feel like it could be useful. These are 100% liquid, so the liquidity is there as well. And also, you've seen a substantial rise in the LAIF accounts yield where the majority of your funds are held. But since interest rates have gone up so much, we're in a situation where we're pretty much waiting to when are we going to see rates go down? And when these rates do fall, the LAIF account is going to see their rates fall quickly because the short-term yields are going to fall quicker because we have what's called an inverted yield curve right now. And when those rates drop, you're probably going to see those rates drop pretty quickly. And right now, our rates are very competitive. We're around the 4 and 4 1/4 range, and so is the LAIF account. But if we buy those treasuries, we're basically locking in that rate, and we're looking to do anywhere from 2 to 5 year maturities on that, if that makes any sense.
Thank you, sir. Any questions?
So on the 2 to 5 year, so is it going to be 2 years or is it going to be 5 years? And then if there was a desired change, so that's the maturity rate, so then what would that look like? And then I'm a little bit concerned about, because I remember, Mr. Metcalf, you standing here almost a year ago, and then how that, the 10 million, are we making interest on that?
Yes, we are. Yeah,
Okay.
the CDs are doing well.
CDs are, what are we getting on those CDs?
So the CDs are anywhere from around 5%.
Okay, so we're doing okay on that.
We're doing okay
Yeah,
on those.
we're doing,
so
that's good.
what we're doing is we're adding another asset class.
Okay.
So you have CDs, and now we're looking to do also U.S. Treasuries. So this is another asset class.
And essentially by segueing over, then we're kind of insulating ourselves from the assumed reading the tea leaves of interest rates coming down.
Interest rate risk.
Yeah.
So basically, you're locking in this rate, so you're not at risk of interest rate risk. But with where you are with the majority of your funds in the LAIF account, you're going to see yields drop, so that yield is going to drop as well. So we're trying to lock that in, get a consistent interest payment per se.
Okay.
All right.
So is it 2 or 5 years?
That was.
So we're kind of later amount, so we'll go probably like a 1 million in 2 year. We'll go a couple million in 3 year, a couple million in 4 year, then a couple million in 5.
All right.
I think the more the value is going to be held in the back end in the 4 and the 5 year.
So staggering.
Yeah,
the
we're going to
various
it's called
amounts.
latering. Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Is that how it's ordinarily done? Or we're just taking the conservative approach?
What do you mean as far as?
You said 1 million the first year.
Yeah,
to
I would.
2 million.
I would say probably latering them out, and I said like the value to, in my opinion, is more so on the back end because with rates dropping, because of a normal yield curve, the shorter the maturity, the less the yield's supposed to be. So that's kind of like the direction we're. So like that 5 year should be yielding more than
Right.
a 2 year
Then
yield.
Okay. All right. Thank you all. Appreciate your comments. Entertain a motion from this council.
So I move that we adopt the investment of the U.S. Treasuries with LPL Financial as presented.
I second.
Call the roll, please.
Thank you.
Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you all. Now, next item is I need to open up a public hearing for item number 14, which now it's 6:15 or 6:14 hours. I'll open the public hearing for second reading of the food truck ordinance. Do we have any public comment?
Mr. Mayor, I do not have any public comments on this item.
Thank you.
Amazing.
Council, any questions on this hearing? Seeing none?
And just as a note, there's an indication in the agenda that this will be continued to the next meeting.
Okay, so the hearing was held. We're going to continue it to the April 16th meeting of 2024. Hearing closed. Now, we're up to public communication hearing of non-agenda items. Anyone non-agenda item in the audience?
Mr. Mayor, I do not have any blue speaker cards.
Thank you. Then we'll move to council future agenda items. I think Mr. Weber made a motion, so we'll bring that to the next agenda for that. And do you have clarity on that item he raised?
Yes, I do. We'll bring an item to allocate some sort of resources, whatever we can. Well, obviously, we'll have to see what we can find in the existing appropriations for Tier 2 construction.
Yep.
Basically, hunt it down, then we can.
All right, be on the next agenda. Any other future agenda items, council? Seeing none, move to correspondence. We have the Sewer Commission Oroville Region's new service charge rate schedule. Should be in your packets as correspondence. We have any other correspondence? I recall, none? Well, folks, then the meeting will be adjourned to the next regular meeting of the Oroville City Council on April 16th, 2024 at 4 p.m. We are adjourned, folks.
Excellent.
Thank you. Wow.
A lot of ground.
Jackie,